We have quorum. Chairman, we have quorum.
It's 4 o'clock. We got a quorum, so I'm calling this meeting of Greater Brownsville Intensive Corporation on September 19 to order. The roll call, please.
Roll call. Chairman Anker Jensen.
Present.
Vice Chairman Dr. Joe Hinojosa.
Present.
Treasurer Gerardo Gonzalez. Secretary Liliana Elizondo.
Present.
Board Member Frank Orozco Jr.
Present.
Board Member Anna O'Quinn.
Present.
Board Member Benjamin Peña.
Here.
And for the record, Treasurer Gerardo Gonzalez is absent. Next item, public comment period. There wasn't any comment registered, Chairman. Next item, before we proceed further, for the record, item number 1 has been removed from today's agenda and it will not be considered. Next item, consideration and action, if any, of the following items. Approval of the minutes of special workshop and regular board meetings. A, regular September 19, 2024. B, acknowledgement regarding the payment of vendor services invoice to the Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation for the month of September 2024.
Can we do both of these in one motion? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes and acknowledge the account?
So moved.
Payment.
Second.
Any discussions? I had a second before we discussed. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion passes. Motion and acknowledgement passes.
Next item, staff report, business retention and expansion and workforce development efforts, business recruitment, events and sponsorships, an executive report. Business retention and expansion and workforce development efforts by Giovanna Rangel.
Good evening. All right, so this month I did 3 business retention expansion visits. I also attended the economic development meeting that was held at eBridge by BCIC. So they are currently, trying to see what they're going to be doing with 31 undeveloped acres. And they have hired 100 partners. So they gathered different stakeholders to just kind of get our input as to what we think, those 31 acres should be. And these 31 acres are by the sports park. So I attended in representation of GBIC. I also connected SATA with Texas A&M TEACS for some training. They're wanting to, did you have a question, Chairman?
Yes, you go back to this, the acres they're buying, what was that?
So they currently own 31 acres and they're trying to see what to do with it. So they hired Hunden partners to basically help them develop, a strategy and to see what would best fit in those 31 acres by the sports park. So they're just, asking stakeholders, the community for their opinion.
Where are these acres?
By the sports park, it's literally next to the sports park.
Is it where that mountain of dirt is?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It's pretty narrow.
Yeah, 31 acres is it's not that much when you think about it, right? But there's a lot of ideas from different stakeholders. They even said a water park, but PUB said no. They were there. That's probably not a good idea. Yes. So yes, going back to SATA and Texas A&M, so they're wanting to train 60 of their employees in different areas and problem solving, pneumatics, Lean Sigma. So we brought them together to just correlate what would be the dates that would work best for them to start that training for their employees. Jerry and I also attended the Rio Grande LNG Community Advisory Board meeting. So this meeting typically is once a quarter, but it's been happening probably once a month or even every 3 weeks, just because of, the current lawsuit that they have. So far, in the latest update, they have about 1,800 employees, in which they are continuing to work business as usual. The hopes, of everything going well are looking better. And they will continue to update us as we move along throughout this journey for them. I also,
Question again.
yes, sir.
The LNG Community Advisory Board, how do they communicate with the community?
How do they communicate with the community?
Yes.
Well, they're using their social media, right? And they're really wanting to have the stakeholders that attend this meeting basically voice their opinion in support of the project. And so right now, social media is going to be the biggest item for them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. I attended the Texas Workforce Commission Apprenticeship Conference. This conference, really my goal was to learn, how to bring apprenticeship programs to employers. And I found it very great, very helpful, so thank you. South Texas Manufacturing Association, Eliasar, myself, and Jerry attended this meeting as well. This meeting actually had different schools attend and kind of talk about all the training that they're able to offer for employers. Texas A&M and TSTC were there, as well as TSC. And lastly, I met with the Tokyo Metropolitan Government through Zoom. So this happened last week. This was something that is obviously, new for us. And I want to thank our new CEO, Gilbert Salinas, for allowing me to have this opportunity. This was a really great opportunity for myself, right, to be able to experience this and have the Tokyo Metropolitan Government basically have 10 different companies and pitch to Texas. We had a representative from the economic development here in Austin to really talk about all the great benefits of coming to Texas and invest and bring these companies. So I'm excited to be a part of this program and see where this takes us. The delegation wants to come in and basically take a tour and visit Texas in different cities. So we're hoping to be a part of that. And we'll keep you updated to where this takes us.
Any questions, guys?
I'll add to what Joanna was saying. So with that, that's actually a service that's offered through the Office of the Governor, their Economic Development Division. And you'll be surprised how many communities do not take advantage of that. So I've always been a proponent of that whenever you can get in front of X amount of companies, especially they're foreign. It's just a great plus for us. And on that note, the governor's office is really starting to make a huge push for inbound investment in Asia, outside of China.
Thank you.
Next, Careers in Coffee. As you all know, this happened yesterday at the event center. It was a great success. We had over 3,000 attendees throughout the entire day. So I want to say thank you to the team. Thank you to the city of Bronzeville. 50 employers participated from different sectors: aerospace, manufacturing, healthcare, and education. I will say SpaceX had obviously the longest line, and they were there even up until when we were picking up. They were the last table, and they took care of every single person that waited. I went up there and I said, hey, you need any assistance? You want me to cut your line? Because it's already past the time, right, that we had advertised. I said, no, we want to talk to every single person. So I stayed behind and I spoke to the two young SpaceX people that were there. And right now their biggest ask is they're looking for welders. They're even thinking of potentially creating their own welding school within Starbase. So I will be having a follow-up meeting with them to see how we can connect them to obviously the local schools and recruiting those welders that we currently have. So yeah, thank you so much to the chairman for attending the event. We were happy to have you there.
Thank you, Marlene. See, help me out with the speech.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that they want welders. Are they just standard welders? Are they?
So I asked them if they're looking for a specific level, right? They said no.
Really?
Level 1 to level 3. I said, okay, I know where we can find level 1 welders, and I will get you connected to them. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rangel. Next item, business recoupment by Jerry Briones.
Good afternoon. So just on a quick note, I wasn't sure if the board knew this, but Ms. Alexa Perez resigned 2 weeks ago tomorrow. She's working at BPUP doing marketing and communications for them as well. And I think doing a little bit more on the PR side with BPUB, but I just want to let everybody know that.
The question,
Yes, sir.
did we ever do, or did the city do an exit interview to see if there was any other underlying reason that, apart from, I assume, a lot more money?
No, I didn't, and she didn't ask for one. And I also submitted her personal action form to HR, to City of Brownsville HR, who's now doing a lot of our HR stuff. And I'm not familiar, and I saw Ms. Perla Cepeda yesterday, and she didn't mention anything about it. If the board wishes, I can reach out to her.
Is that something that we should do? Is that not something we do on a regular basis? If somebody leaves, we do an exit interview?
Yes, Chairman. I mean, that's a standard practice that could be done. But you know, it's up to the employee whether they want to disclose that information.
Yeah, but I mean, in our interest is obviously that, is there any other underlying reasons apart from the salary?
Better pay.
Because, yeah, but
I mean, better pay. I mean, that's.
She's also managing her own department.
The what?
She's also managing her own department.
I'll just add with it, we don't want to dive too much into personnel. What I can do is extend an invite to see if she's open to having a informal discussion.
okay. No, I just want to know if it's standard, if we did it, if we not did it, that's it. No,
Well,
nothing else.
I think the bottom line is we do not have a personnel policy manual for GBIC. Doesn't have like, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, what to do, what not to do, type thing.
Personnel handbook needs.
Dr. Joe,
work,
we,
correct.
we do have a policy, but it's just not, it's not elaborate enough.
Well, okay,
We could discuss all this with the
Yeah,
executive.
yeah.
I think that's executive stuff.
So getting back to the leads that we took over the last 30 days, we had 10 requests for information from the state. Most of the responses, well, actually, we didn't give any responses. Mostly were looking for existing buildings, power requirements, and a lot of them had quick start dates. We also had 2 local developers that are interested in bringing some companies in. We had 2 leads that came through referrals, and we had 2 internal referrals as well. Most of these are still on the just opening conversations, so it's not really something that we can talk about, but they are looking closely at Brownsville. So, next.
Any questions?
I did have a couple of events recently. Actually, this was last Friday. I was a panelist on the Workforce Solutions Cameron and Workforce Lower Rio Grande Valley on workforce development for training and retention and the ecosystem on how to build a workforce of tomorrow. It was very interesting. It was very well attended. There was probably over 75 people there. Next. And last week, we also had our BTX Developers Tour. That is through the RGV partnership. Basically what it is we treat it like a site selectors tour. But in this case, we were having people from all over the valley that were coming down and taking a tour of what we have to offer in Brownsville. We had realtors, we had different developers, investors, and companies that came by. We took them on a bus tour. Elazar and Sal did a great job. And I have to give kudos to Marlene. She put everything together and did a great job. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Jerry? Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Briones. Next item, executive report by Gilberto Salinas.
First of all, Gilbert, welcome on board.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
That was it. That was my
Oh, that was it?
speech.
Oh, I thought I heard first of all, so I was, thank you. Yeah, I was,
There is no second part.
okay. Thanks. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. It's great to be back. Feels good, thank you. Okay, so on the slide is here, as you can see, it's something that we're going to be working on for your approval for next month. It is we're going to have input from the staff. It's a one-year roadmap. It will present it at the next board meeting, and it's going to have around seven lines of engagement, as I like to call them. One is organizational housekeeping, which we just kind of addressed here in the previous report, looking at roles, objectives, goals, looking at our policies and procedures, handbook, then also what is the flow process for prospects, for marketing, hosting a prospect as well, so on and so forth. So it's what I like to call just organizational housekeeping to better streamline the organization. The other one's going to be stakeholder communication. So having a system in place where we can have, be able to communicate with our board at least 2-3 times a month and not just during the board meeting. That we have some more exposure as to what we're working on, economic development in general, so on and so forth. And that would be coming from myself and/or the staff. And then also having some kind of communication with the city commission as well, the mayor and the commission. That way, first of all, they know who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do, and hopefully have some successes along the way and some examples, so on and so forth. That way, the only communication we have with them is not just that once a year when we're coming in for a budget ask, or twice a year when we're coming in for a ask in regards to incentives for a project. And then the other one is corporate recruitment, and these are not in any particular order. Corporate recruitment, which I think the team's already kind of gotten a taste of how to start working on that to really being a little bit more assertive. Yeah, on the marketing side, starting to look at that, and that would be two fronts. One is marketing to Brownsville. So that's marketing to the community, more of a PR campaign so they understand, again, who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. Because you'd be surprised, and Brownsville's not the only community. Economic development is very misunderstood throughout many, many communities. And it takes a while. It's a process to have the community understand what we're working on. And then the other one is marketing to our core audience, which are site selectors, corporate executives, location advisors, and C-level executives for Fortune 1000 companies. That's actually the root of what we work on. Those are the core of individuals that we market to. The other one is the industrial park development, which continue doing what we're doing. Now looking at, okay, what are the deliverables there? Doing some asset mapping to support the industrial park. And then business retention, expansion, and the human capital pipeline. Those go hand in hand. Looking at further flushing out the inventory of companies that we have. Starting to set up some visits, so they've already started working on that. And on the workforce side, everything that we do in regards to workforce has to be through the lens of the needs of local industry. So looking at that as well. And then 6 to 8 months down the road, start looking now at scheduling a board retreat to start working on our strategic plan, which I anticipate would be a 3, maybe to 5-year plan, but let's just say 3-year plan. However, from here until then, we do need some kind of a plan of action, which is what this roadmap is for. So I'll have some input from you all when we do some one-on-one visits. And then that way us and the staff as well, that way we can have some sense of direction, some deliverables, some KPIs that we can deliver on in our first year while we're getting our strategic plan in place. And really what this is just plan of action. You know, right now we're sailing without a sail, right? So let's get that sail in place and start moving in that one direction. Moving on to some other things that I've worked on here in the first week. As I had mentioned before, getting myself fully immersed in the community or re-immersed. So I haven't had to try very hard to reach out to people. I've already had 90 plus calls, text messages, emails, requests for meetings from a lot of local leadership as well as business leadership. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So that gives me the opportunity to reintroduce myself and then listen to them. That's the real power of an economic developer, being able to listen. And then meeting with y'all as well. So I've had a couple of meetings with our chairman and then also with one of our board members. So I'll be reaching out to make sure, to have that one-on-one with you all here in the next couple of weeks. And then also city commissioners. Next week, I'm already meeting with the mayor as well. As far as the staff, fantastic team. Hopefully they say the same about me. That's where they're supposed to say something. So we've already gone over several initiatives, looking at ramping up efforts in some areas. And then I've also said, look, we're going to ramp up, but at the same time, we need to shed off some work. They're working on a lot of different things. Some of them perhaps are not in line with what we should be doing. So we're really starting to take a good look at that. So again, and this is where the plan of action comes in place, so we can get focused and start working on what we need to do, which is basically getting into the mentality of is everything that we're working on, even on a daily basis, contributing to creating jobs, which is primary jobs, recruiting, introducing new companies into town, or helping local industry expand, or helping expand our tax base by way of new capital investment. So we have to make sure that we look at everything through that lens. One thing is clear, they are very passionate about what they do, and they're very passionate about Brownsville. So that makes my job a lot easier, because I can just teach the rest. On the prospect side, Eliazar will be providing an update on some projects here in executive session. Pleased to announce that we've, with him and Jerry, they've created some good traction on some projects, dusted off some old leads, so looking at those as well. In addition to that, we are going to be hosting here in the next couple of weeks a Swedish group of investors. So I originally met this group in Austin at the Capitol a few months ago, and lo and behold, there's a connection to Brownsville. So actually, just before I got here, they reached out, hey, we're going to be in Brownsville. We heard you're going to be there. So great opportunity. Let's see what comes out of that one. In Monterrey, we're hosting an investor in November. He represents several companies from the Monterrey area, somebody that I've done business with many, many years. And we'll be coming in and looking for opportunities specifically in Texas, especially given the climate as it pertains to politics in Mexico. Trade mission, and hopefully as a result of that, we are hopeful, and we'll start working on putting together maybe a mini trade mission to Monterrey, where we can have at least a dozen meetings in the first quarter of 2025, perhaps have a small delegation from the Brownsville area. And then what I like about this, it gives us the ability to partner with the governor's office, because the governor's Latin America office used to be in Mexico City. And then about a year ago, they moved it to Monterrey, which I told them that was one of the smartest moves we could have ever made, because when it pertains to business, all decisions are made in Monterrey, and all investment comes out of Monterrey. So we've had a very great relationship with them, so we'll start working on that. And perhaps that'll help us open doors in Mexico City and Guadalajara as well. So in closing, we are moving in the right direction, getting acquainted with the staff. We're a little late on their response. And vice versa, they're getting to know how I've operated in the past, which is fast and assertive. Happy to answer any questions. And I'm doing the executive report from here, because from over there, I really can't see you all.
Yes,
sir.
I do have a question. The other day, I decided I was going to pretend to be from Boise, Idaho, and I Googled economic development in Brownsville.
Mm.
I didn't see GBIC on there. Well, I did see GBIC like 4 or 5 lines further on down, but nothing popping up for Brownsville economic development. Is that part of your initiative to advertise Brownsville's economic development for GBIC, or?
Yes, sir, it is. And I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the things, actually, when I interviewed for this position, one of the first things that I did. And I think the GBIC was like 7th or 8th down on the list if you type in Brownsville economic. And which is not good, because we are the economic development organization, the type A entity. And the reason I say Brownsville Economic is because a site selector usually, that's what they'll type in. Whenever they're looking at a certain community, and site selectors will start with 50 communities, and they bring them down to 25, and then essentially to 10. Once they get to those 10 communities for their clients, then they start doing those internet searches, and you are expected to be at the top and to have all the information that they need at their fingertips. That is not the case right now. And once we get a new marketing person, that will be one of the first initiatives to make sure that we get our organization to the top of that Google search. And there's ways to do that. And then also making sure that we hear from the site selectors what exactly they need. I'll take a step back, and I was talking to the staff earlier today that I was actually at the Texas-Michigan game in Ann Arbor a month and a half ago. And then we went to the Cowboys game, which was a good game at the time. Now they're, well, so one of the things that I've always done is whenever I'm out and about, just look up to see what site selectors are in the area and just do a courtesy visit. So in this case, I found one in Cleveland. I hadn't seen them in a long time. And we had dinner, and I had mentioned, like, hey, it looks like I'm headed down to Brownsville, Texas, so on and so forth. Sure enough, boom, 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 boom. He's like, he's doing this. I'm like, well, I don't see the organization. I'm like, scroll a little bit more. I was like, oh, there it is. And yeah, he said, incentives corporation. He's like, that doesn't sound like economic development. The website was good. He said, but it just, he said, that's one of the things you need to work on. So as far as our unscientific survey on why we should do what we're doing, that's a perfect example. We heard it straight from the site selector. This is what you need to be doing.
I think once we get into our strategic, particularly when it comes down to marketing, I mean, that's low hanging fruit, right? That we can address. Search engine optimization and address those points really, really quickly. So, we'll certainly have that on the radar to address.
Exactly. Thank you.
Just comment. I'm actually a member of the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce and the Danish American. So perhaps you and I should get together, maybe go visit them. They could help with the Swedish delegation, definitely.
Did not know that, so absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, but I'm also Scandinavian. No, there's nothing wrong with Sweden. It's all, problem is it's full of Swedes.
One other thing, since we talked about it at the beginning of the report, of Jerry's report, I think on HR stuff, we need to sort out whether the city's doing things for us or we're doing them, and we need to have a handbook. So whether that's you or we ask the city to help us, we need to fix that.
Yes, ma'am. I've had my onboarding, and half of that conversation was about that. So we're going to start that process, and that's part of that organizational housekeeping. Thank you.
Thank you. He appointed a committee to work on that. I wasn't on that one. I was on the one that helped hire Gilbert.
Well, we need a lawyer.
Well, that's why you pay one.
There should be a committee to help you.
Well, we're working on our end to make sure we have the correct people there to help us put it together.
I'll introduce you to the committee here a little bit later on today.
When
Thank
he
you.
figures out.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gilbert. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas.
Next.
Next item. As I mentioned earlier, item number 1 has been removed from today's agenda and will not be discussed. Next item, discussion, consideration, and acknowledgement of the Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation Financials and Quarterly Investment Report presented by Salvador Villalpando.
Good afternoon, board members. Today we'll be going over the financials for the full fiscal year. So one thing to keep in mind is these numbers are not final. At the end of the fiscal year, we transition to a modified accrual basis. And that's just to ensure that we account for all activity for the current fiscal year. So for example, sales tax for November, we won't know until November. Once we know that number, we'll allocate it to fiscal year 2024. With that being said, the current numbers for September through September as of today are net positions at 40.1 million. Then we have total assets at 40.8 and liabilities at 679,000. Our net position is broken down into the following. We have 13.8 million invested in capital assets, 24.2 0.6 million in undesignated funds. And then lastly, we have 1.6 million designated per contractual commitments. Next slide, please. On this slide here, we'll focus on the activity for the full fiscal year. Total revenues for the year are currently at 8.4 million. And again, that's going to change once we have the sales tax for September. Expenses are at 5.5. Overall, we have a change in net position of 2.9 million. So we started with a fund balance of 23.4 million, and we're projected to end fiscal year 2024 with a fund balance of 26.9. So we're ending fiscal year 2024 with 26.9 and beginning fiscal year 2025 with that fund balance. Next slide, please. On this slide here, we have the sales tax comparison between this fiscal year and the previous. So for the month of August, we did have a decrease. Collections for the month of August were 573,000, which is about a 10% decrease compared to the previous fiscal year. Overall, through the first 11 months, we do have an increase of 4%, and that increase annualized for fiscal year 2024 projects to about 7.6 million in total collections for the fiscal year. Lastly, we have the quarterly investment report. So this just highlights our investment portfolio through September. Our portfolio through September is 26.4 million, with the majority of our funds in investment pools, which are yielding a higher percentage. We have 45,000 in PNC, which is our demand account at 2.56%, 7.7 in the money market account at 5.01%, 6.9 million in Texas class at 5.11%, and lastly, 11.7 million in tax pool at the highest, 5.16%. Our weighted average maturity in terms of days is 17 days, which essentially our portfolio is pretty liquid. And then lastly, our weighted average yield for our portfolio is 5.10%, and it compared to a 3-month treasury bill is performing higher than it. That concludes the financials. If there's any questions.
Sal, the numbers for this month, we get them November, but when we actually hear about them, it's in December, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so in December is when we would see any impact of the launch, right? Theoretically.
So the launch that's correct. No, yeah. So the launch was in October. We won't know until December. That is correct.
I'm not trying to throw any more work on y'all, but I really would like to see if someone could sit down and look at the launch dates and then compare the sales tax revenue. Because one of the things that's always been touted is when a launch comes, a bunch of tourism, blah, blah. But I want to know if that's anecdotal or if it's actually reflected in sales tax changes. Simply because I'd like to understand, what industries benefit at some point. And I understand it's, going to vary and overall it's probably a positive impact. But that has always been touted, that has always been said. And I'd really like something more than just anecdotal evidence on that. And just to have an idea of, yeah, we actually do see sales tax increase. Or if we don't, that's okay. But it's just understanding whether there's efforts that can be made there, maybe not by us, but by BCIC in conjunction, things like that. So.
Definitely, we could look into that.
Well, when I went on that tour last week, one of y'all indicated that the launches do not bring in any of the sales tax to Brownsville, which I was amazed with that fact because I thought it did. So my question would be, how do we turn that around to bring tourism into Brownsville to spend dollar monies here? Because is that right, what I was told?
Yeah, yes. So we did a little analysis with Placer AI, which is a software to be able to calculate the visa usage. And we did notice that whenever we did try it with 2 different dates, and the sales tax actually went down. That was with Placer AI. So we haven't purchased the software just to be able to run more reports and give you guys a really final number. But that was what we run.
What do you mean visa? What?
With the visas. So whenever they swipe a visa.
You're trying to find out if people coming to watch are from Mexico?
No, the visas is from the
Credit card?
credit card usage, sorry.
Yeah.
raises.
Yeah.
I would expect that. When I'm done. It should be, we don't.
Well,
Well, we have an airport. Sure they got some from it, but that wouldn't be on your board.
I'll just add, if you could let us explore that option, what's the ROI as far as a launch in regards to, sales tax revenue? There's several ways to be able to justify, not justify, but show those numbers clearly, in addition to just the sales tax. So we'll explore that here in the next couple of months.
yeah, like restaurants. Yeah.
Anything else?
We need a motion.
Sal?
Motion to acknowledge.
Second,
Oh,
Any discussion first? I need to switch that phone off. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
The ayes have it, motion passes.
Next item, discussion and action, if any, on resolution number R 2024-016, approving signatories for bank accounts and related matter, presented by Salvador Villalpando.
So this resolution here is to update the authorized signers to be able to sign on behalf of GBIC. So now that we are able to process accounts payable in-house, we're going to remove myself as a signer so that I'm not able to process checks and sign them at the same time. And we're adding Mr. Gilberto Salinas as a signer. So that's what we're recommending for the board to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Anybody in discussion? Any problems with these new names that's on here? Okay, I need a motion.
I made a motion.
Okay, and
I
a
second.
second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion passes. I'll sign it now.
Next item, discussion and action, if any, on resolution number R 2024-017, amending Greater Brownsville Incentive, Greater Brownsville Investment and Strategic Statement Policy, presented by Salvador Villalpando.
Lastly, we have a resolution to amend our investment policy. So just to give an update, now that we are able to process accounts payable, financial reporting, payroll, et cetera, the only item that the city is keeping is overseeing our investments. And the reason for that is they recently hired an investment firm. So it just makes sense if they have a firm contracted, allowing them to continue to oversee our investments. With that being said, we need to add their investment officers to our policy. So that's one of the amendments. We're updating the officers. We're also updating the percentages that we have for investment types. So we're increasing treasury bills, notes, bonds up to 100%. We're increasing U.S. government agencies up to 75% and investment pools up to 100%. So our portfolio can be up to those percentages noted. Thirdly, we are changing the weighted average days to maturity from 270 to 365 days. And we're also increasing the allowable maturity from 2 to 3 years. So that's just in case we want to look into some CDs, right, that are longer term. Fourth, we're updating the current list of investment brokers. So these are investment brokers that the agency works with. And then lastly, we're updating the investment pools and financial institutions. On this one specifically, we added Lone Star National Bank, which the board approved at the last board meeting to bank with. Any questions?
Ben, any comment on this?
No, I think this is the standard approval of our investment policy that we have to do every year because of the Public Funds Investment Act. So these are just some of the updates. Thank you for all the work. Good. Motion to approve.
Second.
O'Connor, second.
Second.
In discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villalpando. Next item, discussion and action, if any, on an administrative service agreement with the City of Brownsville, presented by Jose Caso.
Thank you, Chairman, board members. So I received a copy of the proposed ASA agreement, just essentially the agreement between GBIC and the City of Brownsville pertaining to the services that the city is going to render on behalf of GBIC. And I wanted to just very generally, it seemed like some of the positions decreased and others increased, but overall, the amount I think is consistent with what it was in previous years, for a total of $155,000. And so that averages out to a monthly cost of $12,916.67. The agreement itself is pretty straightforward. It's an agreement where we agree to pay and they provide a certain level of work for us. Some of these tasks I think are really not capped in terms of hours, so it's a flat fee, use it or lose it. So I think that's always beneficial if in fact we're using that. If not, it could be something that we're overpaying for. It just involves a variety of tasks. And, you know, I was hoping that, you know, with the staff and all that, we could go through it, but I can give you all a breakdown in case you don't have a copy of it. So they want to charge $10,000 for IT department, because this includes being able to use their internet and pretty much relying on a lot of their IT staff, but it still is not.
What do the numbers you're giving them per year?
Per year, yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's not everything. For example, if we need an IT individual present with us during hearings and all that, that would have to be contracted out separately. So there's some constraints. For the finance department, it's $5,000 per year. Yes. So.
Please on your mic, Ben.
I'm sorry. Do we have the before and after of
No,
where it
sir.
was before and how it ended up in this new agreement?
I wasn't provided that.
I do have those numbers if you want them. I don't know how you want them communicated.
Read them.
Thank you, Mr. Casa. So just to help him, we did go over the not necessarily compared one to the other, but where we had the biggest increases, I think it turned out to be like 22,000, which was the increase. But it goes back to what the board was actually talking about earlier, and that is that the biggest increase was in HR services. The HR services took a big dive from $435 last year to $70,000 this year. And it's broken down by $30,000 for ODHR, which is organizational development, executive research, hiring, compensation, leadership development, counseling, coaching, development of GBIC employees, investigations, Title V, and then additional training on skill sets, mentoring. And then another $30,000 goes to benefits management, where before we weren't under the city, we did ours, and now we're under the cities. So we're being charged for that additional service, which is another $30,000. So $30,000 from the ODHR, $30,000 from that, and then they're charging us an additional $10,000 to process personal action plans and pre-employment and new employee onboarding, as well as some Go Skills training. So that makes up the biggest bulk, which is in the HR section. They did add 15,000, and that was through CVB for a software that lets them track incoming international investment, not investments, tourists, which Placer AI, which is what we use for locally, does not do. It stops at the border. So they contracted with Zarkio. We're going half and halves with them. I think the city's putting 30, they paid 30 and we're going to split the difference. And that'll help us track the international tourists coming in, especially from Mexico and those areas, because right now we don't know where they go or how they spend their taxes or their sales tax. So that's another thing. So, but other than that, the rest kind of stayed the same. It was really the increment in HR.
Where is the use of this building and the IT resources related to that? Which line item?
That, Director, that one's going to be included in the.
I think it's the.
Yeah, it says.
CMD, no.
The city.
Yeah, facilities. I think
The city agrees to allow GBIC to use the city commission chamber, city hall, conference rooms, and audiovisual equipment at no cost. But if the GBIC is going to use a city-approved contractor to run the audiovisual equipment, then GBIC has to pay for that.
And we pay those too.
I mean, it doesn't seem like that much money for what we're getting. What are your thoughts?
What was the question?
It doesn't seem like it's, I mean, the city is essentially, this is what they've decided they want to charge us. It doesn't seem unreasonable to me. I think previously we had issues with like paying so much of it towards legal when all of our legal issues were getting not addressed. But now we contract people for things. So, I mean, I don't have an issue with it. What are your thoughts?
I've done these before, and it's pretty standard. And at the end of the day, it is kind of like our parent company, kind of. So.
Yeah, and I mean, if we had to hire an HR person, it wouldn't be as effective as a whole department.
I think
Cost
it would-
effective.
the only thing is, we don't have a lot of employees. A lot of that onboarding stuff may not be very advantageous to us, but the leadership training, all that stuff, let's make use of
We
it.
need to use it.
Get it all, get it, as much training as they're willing to offer, let's really make use of it.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities for us.
And-
The CVB software, we're talking about tracking the launches. Well, now we have an entity that has the tool to give us that information. So there are several things that we can most definitely use. It's just up to us.
And as a part of the services, they'll also create our handbook for us.
Say what?
They'll create our handbook for us.
There we go.
Pursuant to this agreement.
Free.
So,
Well, $70,000, but included. Okay, well, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Yes, what's,
You have a motion and a second.
motion to, accept and a second.
We've got those.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion passes. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Next item. Before we move into executive session, for the record, Project Alice and Project Cat have been removed from the agenda and will not be discussed today.
Make a motion to move to executive session?
A second.
Can I just read out
Okay,
the,
all those say aye.
Oh, she has to read it out.
Aye, the ayes have it, motion passes. We go into executive.
She has to read it out.
I have to read out the closed session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.087, project related to Project Industrial, Project Oxidizing, Project Racer, Project Mustang, and Project SID.
Make a motion to proceed to executive session?
Second.
Okay,
Aye.
are we good? Aye, all the ayes have it, we go into executive session.
Aye. If it's already a second. What happened?
I don't know, it's the pharmacy call.
Full day in our break.
Ah.
Crazy.
Games of Texas, that's now, isn't it? No, that was good. Yeah. We gotta come next year.
I got the motion here, okay?
Okay, got it? Anchor is with us.
How much?
Reinvestment.
Okay. Okay, we're back. Almost everybody. Okay. I'm calling this meeting, motion to call this meeting back to order at, about 5 to 6. Thank you guys for waiting.
Shockingly early.
Okay, we have, some motion.
I make a motion.
Second?
To reconvene.
Motion to what?
Reconvene.
Okay, if the ayes have it, we have reconvened.
Aye.
Aye.
Next item, consideration and action, if any, including but not limited to the adoption of board resolution related to the items discussed in executive session. Project Industrial, Project Oxidizing, Project Racer, Project Mustang, and Project SID.
Liliana will read the motion.
I make a motion to proceed as follows. For 1.1, proceed as discussed in executive session. For 1.2, approve a resolution and authorize waiver of the exercise of right of first refusal. And Board Member Gerardo Gonzalez will be abstaining from 1.2. 1.3, no action. 1.4, no action. And 1.6, no action.
Second. Any discussions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
I don't know if anybody want to make a motion to
Motion
adjourn?
adjourned.
Second. That was quick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yes.